We have various news and notes to report on from NHL training camp and preseason action, including some signings, some injuries, and much more. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned, we have all kinds of different news and notes from around the NHL that we've learned through NHL training camps and preseason action here, so let's jump right in and get started. First up, we have a signing to discuss here. Sam Reinhart and the Buffalo Sabres has finally come to terms on a 2-year bridge contract, giving Reinhart an annual cap hit of $3.65 million. As we know, Sam Reinhart is one of the remaining RFAs that was unsigned here, trying to come to terms before the NHL season got started, and the Sabres and Reinhart have finally come to terms here on a bridge contract. Personally, I thought Reinhart might get a little bit better deal than what he received here, but obviously as things are coming down to the wire, running out of time, they were able to come to terms here on a short-term deal. If Reinhart can continue to perform and even improve further, I'm sure next time around he'll get a bigger contract value in the longer term. Personally, I like this deal quite a bit for the Buffalo Sabres. I think it's a very fair contract. I really thought he would fetch a bigger annual value than $3.65 million. Based on what other players with similar point totals have received here, I really thought Reinhart might get a little bit more than this. So in my opinion, this is a really good contract for the Buffalo Sabres. He can continue to improve himself here, and hopefully next time he can earn that longer term deal with the Sabres. Obviously, the Buffalo Sabres should be one of the more improved teams this year. Obviously, they've gone through some pretty drastic changes through some trades and players drafted and other rookies ready to jump into the lineup here. So we should see a very different looking Sabres team this year, which should help Reinhart's production even further here. So let me know down in the comment section what you think of this contract between Sam Reinhart and the Buffalo Sabres. Now, one other quick signing to report on here as well before we jump into some other news. The Dallas Stars have signed their 2018 first-round selection Ty Dellandrea to his entry-level contract. As we know, the Dallas Stars were the host team for the 2018 NHL Draft, and Dellandrea was their first-round selection. It was a little bit of a surprise pick. Not to knock Dellandrea, he does look to be a pretty decent prospect, but I did suspect him to go a little bit later into the first round. But he has come to terms here with the Dallas Stars on his entry-level contract. It's likely going to be at least one more year before we see Dellandrea in the Stars lineup. Speaking of junior players trying to make the jump here to the NHL, let's jump over next and speak about the Philadelphia Flyers. They did announce that they were returning players Morgan Frost and Isaac Ratcliffe back to their junior squads. Now, Ratcliffe was just drafted here in 2018. That wasn't so much a surprise, but I was a little bit surprised that Morgan Frost was sent back as early as he was. I really thought he'd have an excellent shot at making the Flyers team this year. Even if it wasn't on a full-time basis, I figured he'd make it further into training camp and at least get a few NHL regular season games under his belt as a sample to see how we do before they'd make that decision. So I'm not quite sure if Morgan Frost didn't have the best summer or just didn't look as good as they expected him to look in training camp, or what kind of went into making that decision. But I really thought Morgan Frost might have a shot at maybe either being a third or fourth line center for this team and really having a shot to get in some NHL games. So I guess we'll see here as time goes on if we learn anything further about the decision to send Frost back so early. But I guess he won't be in the Flyers lineup this season. As we know, a few days ago, the Tampa Bay Lightning placed defenseman Jake Dodgen on unconditional waivers for the purpose of termination due to a material breach. The report going around at the time was that the Lightning were not happy with his conditioning. Now, obviously, as we discussed here on the channel and through the comment section of that video, I said, must be something pretty extreme if they're going to go to the length they did to basically terminate his contract due to a material breach. I mean, we've heard many times over the years of teams not being totally satisfied with players in their conditioning when they showed up to camp, but we've never really seen somebody be terminated over it. It's a rare move to see a player like that put on unconditional waivers for the purpose of termination for material breach. It's a pretty drastic move. We did learn some further information today from TSN's Bob McKenzie, indicating that Dodgen showed up 30 pounds overweight compared to what his playing weight was last season. So obviously that is not a good summer to gain 30 pounds over a short period of time like that. Obviously he wasn't doing a very good job of looking after himself, and they have had other issues with Dodgen here in the last couple of years. The other issues they've had in the past were not necessarily the same thing. However, when you put it all together and you show up to training camp 30 pounds overweight, something like this should be expected. As I had mentioned before, it was speculated that there was going to be some sort of appeal or something filed with the league to see if anything could be done about this. At this point, though, I would assume if Dodgen fights this, that he's not going to have a leg to stand on, and that this is going to stand. You can't show up to training camp 30 pounds overweight and expect to keep your NHL job. So it's unfortunate. I know he's young. it's really hard to say if he'll have another shot at the NHL or what will happen with his hockey career here moving forward. So as we know, the Boston Bruins and the Calgary Flames have been over in China promoting the NHL and putting on some preseason action for the fans over there. That series is now completed with the Bruins sweeping that 2-game series. They won again earlier this morning. Jake DeBrusk had an excellent couple of games for the Bruins, scoring 2 more goals today, including the game winner. So he's looked really solid, and the Bruins have beat the Flames both times here over in China. The Montreal Canadiens will be without forward Nick Deslauriers for an indefinite period of time after suffering some facial fractures in a fight the other night in a preseason game. I'm really not sure why he bothered getting into a fight, to be honest. It was kind of unnecessary. Really wasn't something he needed to bother getting into, in my opinion. And, for a preseason game especially now that he's hurt, certainly shows it wasn't a wise move. Nick Deslauriers was a pretty solid acquisition last year for Montreal and really played well for them down the stretch, even towards the end of the year when the games weren't really all that meaningful once they were eliminated from the playoffs. He still performed at a pretty good level for them and looked as though he should have a pretty solid spot in the lineup this year. With Deslauriers being out for an extended period of time and Montreal having so many young players fighting for roster spots, it's really not clear how that'll impact his spot, but at least while he's out, it's going to give other younger players an opportunity to take that spot from him. So overall, not a wise move, but nonetheless, he will be out for an indefinite period of time for the Montreal Canadiens. Some of the NHL's top rookie prospects got a chance to make their preseason debuts. We've got to see Rasmus Dahlin, Andrei Svechnikov, as well as Elias Pettersson all make their debuts, and they all looked really, really solid. Dahlin especially had a fantastic game, got lots of shots on goal. Svechnikov registered a goal and an assist. Elias Pettersson looked really solid as well. At one point, Elias Pettersson made Ryan Strome of the Oilers look absolutely silly with an incredible deke. So all of them looked really, really good. They did not look out of place at all. So they are expected to be dynamic players for their teams. They're all guys who are expected to be in the race for the Calder Trophy. I really think this year's NHL rookie class is expected to be really, really solid. With these 3 rookies having such great performances in their preseason debuts, it just kind of really ramps things up here and get excited for the NHL regular season. We're going to have an excellent crop of NHL rookies to watch this year. These 3 guys, along with a bunch of others, are going to have a tremendous 18-19 rookie class, and there's a lot of guys who could be in the running for that Calder Trophy. There's a lot of excellent talent making the jump to the NHL this season. Miles Wood and the New Jersey Devils don't appear to be any closer coming to a contract agreement here. One of the few remaining RFA players trying to get a deal done here before the season starts. But as the reports here from TSN indicate, there really isn't even much dialogue going on between the two sides. I'm not quite sure exactly what a lot of their differences are right now in coming to terms. One of the quotes from Ray Shero a few days ago indicated that the two sides had philosophical differences. So obviously that could mean a variety of things. I'm not really sure exactly what those differences are. Miles Wood had a pretty good season for the Devils last year, but I really don't know how they could be that far apart. I don't understand some of these players having one solid year on their rookie deal, going in to be an RFA, and then making all these high demands. Obviously, Miles Wood had a pretty solid year for New Jersey last year, but it looks as though New Jersey is really ready to wait and be patient here with this and take their time to get the right deal for them. I'm not quite sure exactly, like I said, what all the differences are, but they don't appear to be any closer on a contract. Same goes for William Nylander and the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's really no news to report there as well. Based on the fact there really isn't any news on those guys, it does appear as though they're not any closer to getting a deal done. So that's all of our news and notes today from NHL training camps and preseason action. I'd love to hear your comments down below, what your thoughts are, and if there's anything else you've noticed amongst the preseason action here and other training camp news that have really caught your eye and got you excited for the upcoming 18-19 season. Now, if you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.